Manchester City 3, Manchester United 0, and I still can't help but feel that this was a missed opportunity for Ruben Amorim and his side. And the reason for that is because, yes, City are a good team, of course they are, but they are not as good as what they were 2 seasons ago. They are not this amazing beast that demolishes everyone. They're simply not. But United still couldn't lay a glove on them. Now, some of you guys will point to the expected goals. Manchester United eventually created 1.5, which, in a game of this magnitude, really isn't too bad at all. But we do have to think about the game state and when we actually created these chances. If we look at the expected goals threat map, we can see that United didn't actually really create any chance of true meaning until we were already 3-0 down. So basically, we didn't really get going in an attacking sense until City stopped playing. So basically, in my opinion, in this football match, United couldn't attack well and we couldn't defend well, which means it doesn't go well. Now, before we actually talk about the performance from both sides and what we actually saw on the football pitch, I think we need to go to the two starting 11s, because often when these team sheets are released, you immediately get an idea of how both managers want to approach the game, their ideas heading into the football match. If we take the Manchester City team and ignore formation, ignore system, and just look at profiles of player, I would say they had sort of 4 defensive-minded players, being the back 4, and then they had 6 more front-footed players. Of course, Rodri in midfield is sort of in between, but I would always label him as more of a ball player, a deep-lying playmaker, as opposed to a ball-winning midfielder. So I would say City had 4 defensive-minded players and then 6 more attack-minded players. If we now switch over to United, it's the opposite, basically. First of all, we have 5 literal defenders, defensive-minded players on the pitch, but on top of that, we have Ugarte, who is a ball-winning midfielder. So United have 6 defensive-minded players, which means we therefore have 4 attack-minded players. Now, if we just take that as what it is for a moment, that means that Pep Guardiola and Manchester City have gone into the match with 6 aggressive-minded players. United have gone into it with 4. That sort of tells you the mindset of the 2 different managers. We're not even talking about system or formation here. City have 6 attack, expressive-minded players. United only have 4. Which tells us City are probably going to be the team that are on the front foot. And they are probably going to have more technical quality. I think we associate technical quality, creativity, expressive players with the attackers, right? So if City got 6 and we've only got 4, City are likely to be more expressive. The other thing that we can see is United's attack is likely to be a little bit stunted because we've actually only got 4 forward-minded players on the pitch. So literally we have less attackers than what other clubs would, right? We don't have loads of forwards, we don't have loads of wingers, we don't have loads of creative players because we've got more defenders. And that sort of summed up, if you look at the attacking 5 of the 2 teams, you can see that City's is naturally more aggressive. Now, despite saying all of that, I actually think United started the game as the better team, particularly in possession. When Manchester City were trying to press high, United had a way to deal with that. And basically the way to deal with it for United was to not even attempt to play out from the back. Not an awful lot of Delict going into midfield. Of course, we saw it occasionally, but not massively. Not a big focus on moving the ball out from the back with the wider centre-backs. It was more about sending the ball long. So all of these guys here would basically be sent pretty high, pretty early on. And United's game plan was to use Bayindir's long passing ability, which has been good at the start of the season, to send the ball long, as you can see in his passing map here, looking to play direct, and using Benjamin Sesko up front. Now, I don't actually feel that Sesko is a target man at this moment in time, but particularly in the first half hour of this game, he did a really good job. He won 3 of his first 4 aerial duels, and what this provided was a point for United, a focal point that we could play up to and then play on the second ball. So Bayindir is going to send the ball on to Sesko. Sesko is going to often beat Diaz in the air, which is impressive, and then look to plonk the second ball in midfield. And in terms of the second ball, I think United did well. We will see later that United, numerically were outnumbered in these positions. But I think Ugarte and Bruno did a really good job on the second ball. You can see that in the numbers. They both did pretty well, sweeping up that second ball in midfield. And we know what that means, right? If you can send the ball long, win your first contact, and also get on the ball on your second contact, and you've now got a player like Bruno facing forward, United are going to have moments early on where we can get into good positions, because Sesko will offer us a run in behind, and Bumo will do the same, Ahmad will get involved as well, and this is where United actually early on looked like we could do something going forward. The problem is, it wasn't particularly sustainable. Now, the reason why it wasn't sustainable for United was because we didn't defend well, so we couldn't attack for prolonged periods. We couldn't force City to camp in their own box because we couldn't win the ball back quick enough. So, the best teams in the world, when they dominate games, they attack, they put the ball at risk, but if they lose it, they quickly win it back to keep the opposition pinned where they are. For United, that's not the case in high-pressing moments. On goal kicks, I don't think United were too bad. We would often see one of the inside forwards, normally Mbumo, moving into a front two. Mazraoui would come up and we would see United going to an aggressive 4-4-2 pressing shape on goal kicks. That's good. We can see it here. That's pretty good from United. The problem is in open play or any sort of moment where the second ball drops and City look to play, United quickly become passive. The reason for that was because Mazraoui would now drop back and United have a back five. If United had got 5 here, up against just 3 for City at times, yes, sometimes 4 if one of the others came further forward, it means United are going to be outnumbered in these positions, and that was really the problem. Anytime United tried to get pressure on the ball, they were just outnumbered. Now, to make it clear, it wasn't a complete failure. There were moments where Bruno or Ugarte could nick the ball and United could transition, but generally speaking, we had a problem here. I always think the job of the manager is to give your players the best opportunity. Here we've got 7 Manchester City players against 5 Manchester United players. And for me, that is a manager failing to do his job. He is not giving those 5 players there the best opportunity, the best potential to win the ball back. He's simply not. Playing 5 versus 7 against players of this technical quality is just ridiculously difficult. The United players didn't do too badly considering, but it's still incredibly difficult. And what it means is that if a Manchester City player wants to be a bit bolder, they want to carry the ball forward, United can't go and press them. You see these 3 here, they're all sort of left just looking at him because they're already picking up other men. This is the problem when you're outnumbered. And this wasn't a one-off thing. It happened time and time again. Look at the number of City players here. It is so many City players. I think it's 7 again. And it's just so few for United. And again, it's very easy for City to move the ball forward. And we can see it here. This is a problem. Rodri is one of the best ball-playing midfielders in world football. He's amazing at orchestrating attacks, dictating the flow of a game. You cannot give him this amount of time in midfield with his head up. If you want to control the game, you simply can't do this because Rodri with time on the ball is someone who will control. And the reason he had time on the ball so often was because United, quite simply, were outnumbered in midfield. So, yeah, it made us very passive. So in this game, United were passive. We have seen evidence of that. United couldn't get enough pressure on the ball high up the pitch so City can move the ball forward. Now, for some, that won't be the end of the world, and perhaps it's not for me either. You know, United being passive isn't ideal, but it's not the worst thing. However, my sort of view on this is 10 months into the job, Ruben Amorim we're talking about here, 10 months into the job, I think there should be a way for United to be on the front foot. Like the first game of the season against Arsenal, for example, that was better from United. That was United in a big game, perhaps still defensive at times, but in an aggressive manner. In this match, what we saw was the opposite. A deep United team, a team that couldn't really get out from the back and, you know, even in possession were forced to play the ball long. How sustainable is that? If we're talking about 10 months of progress, is that really progress? If we're still passive defensively and easy to play against, and on the ball forced to play the ball long? Let me know what you think in the comments. The next problem, though, for United is perhaps even worse. So initially, we're passive, which means we are going to be deep, right? United are going to be forced to defend deep, but that shouldn't be a problem in theory. We said right at the start of the video. First of all, United have 5 defenders across the backline, and we also have Ugarte, who is a defensive-minded player. So realistically, United being forced to defend shouldn't be a problem at all. This is what Amorim wants. He wants us to be more defensive because we can be strong here. Or you'd think, but we're not. And again, there are just multiple areas where United become outnumbered in this football match. One of those areas is out wide. If someone like Reinders, in the right midfield position for Manchester City, is willing to drop deeper and a little bit wider, we can see that quickly, City are going to have a 3 versus 2 in this position here. Clearly, City have 3 there, United only have 2. That's a problem. You know, the United players are outnumbered in this position. And someone like Ugarte can't go out over there because he's a central midfielder. He's got to protect the middle ground. And it's the same for Luke Shaw. He doesn't want to come out wide because he's playing centre-back. Something similar could also happen on the other side as well. Let's say Foden might drop deep with Doku and O'Reilly. And once again, if we go over here, Manchester City are going to have 3 versus 2. Now, in moments, the centre-backs will help out for United. You know, someone like Yoro will actually go and connect and make it a 3 versus 3, but not consistently. And that's the problem, I feel, with the Ruben Amorim system. When it works, we can see what he's trying to do. When these centre-backs are able to jump out, you can see the matchup we're trying to achieve. The problem is, this job is just very, very difficult. It's very, very difficult as a centre-back to constantly be jumping out there. In the history of football, how many centre-backs have been given that role and played it really to a high level? I would suggest not very many. And some of the reason for that is because the opposition know that we want to do this. So, for example, what Manchester City could do in this game is push Gvardiol forward. So he would become part of this 3 out wide, and let's say Doku might go more inside here. Now United have really got a problem, because Yoro now has no chance, no opportunity. This isn't even a Yoro problem anymore. There's nothing he can do. He is being pinned back defensively, which means, again, United will be outnumbered out here. Now, we can see this here. Manchester City with 3 players out wide, Manchester United with just 2. We are outnumbered. 10 seconds later, the same thing happens on the other side of the pitch. City have 3, United only have 2. But at this moment in time, it's not a massive problem. You see, if we look at Lenny Yoro, he is free. So if needed, he could jump out wide to help. And if we go back 1, Luke Shaw here is free. If needed, he could move into the wide area to make it a 3 versus 3. The problem is we don't do it consistently. The other problem is the opposition know we want to do it. So we've got United in the 5-4-1 shape here, where we should be compact, we should be solid. We've got 11 players behind the ball here. City don't even have that many players actually committed forward to the attack. However, you will see that there is a gap in the United structure, and it is here. Jeremy Doku is the free man. And the reason he is the free man is because Luke Shaw cannot get out. Luke Shaw wants, and Ruben Amorim wants, Luke Shaw to be aggressive here. He wants him to step out towards Doku to apply pressure to the ball. So why isn't he doing it? Well, because he's got this fella next to him, Reinders, stopping Luke Shaw physically from moving out. And this is where, I would say from a tactical point of view, Guardiola has done well and Amorim hasn't reacted. So Guardiola has realised a weakness in the United system. If you can force that wide centre-back to stay deeper, like Reinders has done here to Luke Shaw, then Doku is going to have time in midfield. And we can see that. The ball is going to come in. City have more players than United, because United only play with 2 central midfielders. And now we can see Doku in that space. And Luke Shaw hasn't been able to get out towards him. Luke Shaw has been forced back into his defensive position. The other problem with this goal is we've got Bruno Fernandes defending the edge of the penalty area against Phil Foden. And this isn't Bruno's game. It's a Bruno mistake. Of course it is. And he deserves criticism for that. He doesn't follow his man. But also, should Bruno regularly be defending these positions? That's a question you have to ask the manager. But I think if we just go back a moment, this actually really summarises it quite nicely. You can see Luke Shaw is pinned. It's not a mistake from Luke Shaw. There's nothing he can do here. We can also see De Ligt can't go help because he's pinned from Haaland. So Doku actually just has this amount of space, and that's what causes the goal. So yes, there were individual errors on Bruno Fernandes' part. Luke Shaw could later on make a better tackle. But we are forcing ourselves into positions where a player like Doku, one of the best dribblers on the planet, can pick the ball up on the edge of our penalty area and drive at the defence. That shouldn't be happening. We can also see something similar for the second goal as well. Now this time it's Yoro on Doku. It's from a throw-in, so it's slightly different. It's not exactly copy and paste, but the idea is the same. Lenny Yoro is pinned deep, so United are defending with a back 5 here, and Yoro has no option. He cannot get out and help in midfield, despite the fact that Ruben Amorim wants him to. The result is this. Foden has time in that half space. We just saw Doku here a minute ago. Now we've got Foden here. Now on this occasion, Foden does brilliantly. Yoro doesn't do good enough against Doku. Doku does very well and slides the ball through to Haaland. But the point that I will keep making is that if you defend passively for so long and you give your defenders such difficult jobs, they're going to make mistakes eventually. You're asking for it. If you defend deep so regularly, something's going to give. Now, it is for that reason why I would blame Ruben Amorim for this performance, and normally I don't like to do that. I don't like to sit here and just blame the players or just blame the manager. It's normally a combination of both, and even at the best of times, I don't like to play a blame game. But on this occasion, I do think Ruben Amorim is at fault, because from very early on in the game, probably the 15th minute, a theme was set in the match, and at no point did he change it. And that's a problem for me. Whether that's moving away from the 3-4-3, not in the long term, but just for 10 minutes to try something different. You know, we're 3-0 down and still using the same idea. It hasn't worked for the first 70 minutes. Why is it suddenly going to work now? United had a problem. Guardiola identified a problem in the United structure. He's targeted it throughout the match, both in deeper phases and in higher phases, and outplayed United. And at no point did Amorim have a solution. He didn't have something a little bit different he could do. He didn't tuck one of the midfielders into a different position. He didn't change the role of a wing-back or a centre-back. He just sort of left the players out there on the pitch to deal with it. Yes, he changed personnel, but the instructions looked very, very similar. And that's why I'm critical of Amorim. He put a lot of defenders on the pitch, which means you are going to struggle a little bit going forward because you've got 6 defensive-minded players. So you're going to struggle going forward. But to then look so bad defensively as well is a failure. It's a failure of a football match. In terms of United going into this game, what we expected, what we wanted from the team, it was a failure. We didn't get close to hurting City until the last 5 minutes when they basically asked us to attack them. So that's why I'm not very happy, because I just don't think it's good enough from United, and something has to change. I'm not saying Ruben Amorim has to be sacked. Some people will say that. But if he's not to be sacked, he has to change something, right? Because it's not working. He's doing the same thing again and again, and it's not working. He has to shift. He has to do something a little bit different. He doesn't even have to abandon his shape. Just something needs to change. Right now it isn't. And I do feel that whilst we've got a lot of good players at the club now, there's a problem. There is a problem, and honestly, it doesn't look great for United right now. I've tried to find the positives since the international break, and I did find some, but I could also find a lot more negatives, and that would be a lot easier to do, which is concerning. United don't look amazing going forward right now, apart from transition, and we don't really look that brilliant defensively. So we don't look great at football, basically, which is why you lose 3-0 to Manchester City, and is also why I'm going to stop the video there before I get really sad talking about United. So we are going to stop there. Thank you guys very much for watching this video. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like, subscribe, and get notifications on. And as always, I'll see you in the next one, which will hopefully be a little bit more positive.